folks, so we'll start here. This is next to the new fence. I've just squeezed in some strawberries here. We've been getting a good harvest off these because the warm concrete overnight seems to help on the driveway. This is a little sugar bubba mandarin. He's loaded in fruit. We've just got a potted kaffir lime there. And here's my jaboticaba hedge. I won't go through all the varieties, but they seem to be loving it right here in partial shade. And I think it helps that every night I park the car here, and probably takes a few hours for the car to cool down, but in the meantime it provides warmth for the yellow jaboticaba here. So it came out of the cold snap looking quite good. So as you can see there, the jaboticaba hedge, that's a new addition. Also on the other side of the driveway, extended the strawberry bed. It's only probably 4 or 5 inches wide, that bed, but we're getting a lot of strawberries out of it. Got some spring onion there, and this is a Patagonian pineapple, cold climate pineapple. Apparently it gets just small fruit that are quite tasty, tropical tasting on the end of it there, so I brought that off Gumtree, off a rare fruit collector locally, and we'll see how that goes there. Alright, so this is my favourite new addition to the garden, this bed, and this is also partial sun. It only gets a small amount of sun there, as you can see, every day, in that tiny little gap there, but it's also sheltered from the wind. It's quite a windy day today, and they're hardly moving, so that helps compensate for the lack of sun. So we put a groomy charmer here, black one. We put a red scented finger lime here, which is doing way better than the one in full sun. The one in full sun doesn't look like it's got any fruit in its second year, and this one in the part sun is loaded in its first year. So the Tamarillo, I finally got a Tamarillo to fruit here, and the trick was just a bit of shade and shelter. So this is a yellow one, or I think the orange one, sorry, and we're going to get quite a lot of fruit off that. So looks like the trick for Tamarillo here is shelter. So I've got 4 toffee trees here. There's a dwarf acai there, and the rest are various types of Arabica, I think, but they seem to be loving that spot too. So we put in 13 of these in-ground worm farms. So we got rid of our green waste collection bin, and instead everything goes in there, all our trimmings from the garden, leftover veggies, and worms are loving it. You open that at night time, there's thousands of worms in there. So here's a Taiso lychee. It also enjoys the partial sun. The plan with that is while it's young, it's sheltered, and then as it gets taller, it'll gradually get more and more sun as it gets more and more acclimatized. And curry leaf tree here, which also seems to like the sheltered spot. So that's just a quick overview of that new garden bed. Right here in this probably 90% shade area, we put our edible leaves because they stay nice and soft. Over the back here is a betel leaf, or palm I think, and that one I'm going to try 2 of these. So that one's in pretty much full shade, and then I've got another one here in partial sun. So this one's getting a little bit burnt, but I'll just try 2, and whichever one takes off, I'll put a trellis along this wall, and that can live there. So through here things are only just starting to take off. We've had a pretty horrible start to spring and summer. But today's 33, so hopefully it's the worst of it's behind us. Drying various things for tea has become popular around here, and here's my Isai kiwi berry, which will eventually shade these water tanks out and grow up on this trellis here. And the idea behind that sitting on the bricks is every year I'll take out a brick or 2 and add a bigger pot, because it's sitting on concrete there. I can't plant it in the ground, so I didn't want to put it straight into a big pot. So because it's attached to the trellis there, I can't move it up and down once it's established. So I'll take out bricks and then add pot size up every year or so that we maximise the root space within the pot. So down the side of this same shed, we've got a choco growing on the trellis here, and we've got 2 garden beds here. This whole wall here is going to be a galvanised trellis, same as this, and it gets a lot of morning sun, and we'll grow various climbing melons in those beds. And I'll put I think this is a red ball lychee. I'll put this in the ground here in a nice shaded spot on the same principle. It's very sheltered in here, and it seems like a small space, but it'll encourage it to grow tall, and once it gets to the top of that fence there, it'll get probably an extra 30% sun. So while it's young, it can have partial sun and then gradually move up to fuller sun. I've failed at lychees before, so I've put them in full sun, but over winter they just die waterlogged. So that's why I'm trying some different things. And this bed here will just be for various chilies and things. There's a large leaf jaboticaba. It copped a hiding from hail a few days in a row, but it's I had it shaded last year with shade cloth, but this year I'm going to the trunk looks like it's hardened off. I'm just going to leave that in full sun unless we get temperature over 40 degrees, and then I'll 40 degrees Celsius, and then I'll put some shade over it. So we've got a few beds here, and this is the Cara orange. It's got some fruitlets, I don't know if they'll hold. Here's a pomelo, which is currently my favourite citrus. We got a good one off this year, and it was so delicious. So hopefully we get a few more on that. It's in a very prime position, that one. And here's a Yimpe grafted Wampy. I've only got 1 fruit off that before, and I didn't mind it actually, so keeping an eye on that. Here's my air-layered Kaloa longan, which is just putting out flower buds now, but it's in a pretty exposed spot. So that'll just goes to show longan can survive. I haven't had any decent fruit off it yet, but had fruit, but it wasn't sweet. So yeah, I'll just keep persevering with that. The trunk seems to be getting bigger, so that's a good sign. Sugarcane seems to like its spot there. It's protected all around. And the asparagus has gone into fern, which provides a nice windbreak for the rest of the plants. We get about 12 weeks of harvest out of it, and it's a good late winter crop, early spring, so not much else is growing, so we clean up on that. Beetroot here always does well. Here's a seedling Wampy. It's much more vigorous than the grafted one. Yet to try fruit off that, so I'm not sure if it'll be worth it, but the tree itself is beautiful. I put all trees around this area that don't lose leaves because I've got a pond close by, which I'll show you now. So here's the pond. I've done a few modifications to this, and this Taiso lychee with fruit on it, I brought it with fruit. It didn't produce fruit here, but they've hung on so far, and the idea is I might put this in the ground on the edge of this pond area and utilise some of the humidity, and eventually where all that weed mat is, I'll cover that with rocks and things that retain heat, and yeah, hopefully the lychee can just find its way out around the edge of that and grow out. So the main part of it will be protected in winter, and any branches can just grow out the side here and as tall as they want. So it's just trial and error. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but that's the plan. And then in winter I'm going to cover this with polycarbonate instead of shade cloth to stop waterlogging, and then we'll grow sawtooth coriander and other things here that normally die off in winter, and I've put a new garden bed in there that we can reach from the outside of the fence. And in the corner over here on these rocks for retaining heat, I'll have my miracle berries. Still haven't had fruit off these, but these are putting out new growth, so I think they like it in here next to the pond. And the shed at the back there, which is currently completely covered in rubbish, that'll eventually be a quail cage in that corner there, so we can get a few quail eggs every day, just add to the self-sufficiency. Again, we'll be growing long melons and loofah melons up this trellis. And here's the Sabara Jaboticaba, which is my biggest one, and it's put out a bit of growth, but more importantly the trunk's getting quite strong. And then opposite here is a red shatut mulberry, and I just picked some off that this morning. They were delicious. And the bacon avocado, no fruit this year, but the tree's now fully hardened off. I don't need to protect it in winter or summer. I still have it tied down because we get some strong winds here this time of year. It's next to a miniature peach and a potted fig, and then in the middle here, when the avocados each side get quite big and provide some nice shade in there, I'll put a beehive along that north facing fence to provide our own honey. So this Hass avocado is absolutely loaded in fruitlets. I reckon there'd be 150 to 200 fruitlets on it at the moment, but I don't know if they're all going to hang on. But that tree has just been, it's just loved that spot there. It's basically on a very high mound that I built up with broad end soil, and either side of it is basically just like a riverbed either side of it. So this thing here is the star of the backyard this year. The strawberries are going bananas again, getting a good harvest out of that. And just to give you an idea of how cold it got here over winter, this Lee Jujube, which is quite cold hardy, it was up to the top of this post, and it died back right down to here, which is about the same height as when I brought it, but it just increased in thickness. And it's next to a guava. The first day of spring, the trunk's still green. If you can see here, the trunk's still very green, and hasn't got a single leaf on it this year, and it's 4th day of summer. So it really went into dieback mode this year. And the macadamia, I wanted it to be an upright form because it's in quite a narrow spot here, so I staked it directly to the trunk, and it worked, but it got a bit too spindly, so I've put different staking method to allow the tree to get a bit stronger in the wind. It's probably still over supported, but I haven't got much choice now because it's grown so spindly. But that at the start of winter I put that in, and that was about that tall. So if you have a look, it's more than doubled in size with no protection. And over here we've got miniature peach, had a bit of leaf curl, and it's got plenty of fruit hidden. This dwarf, I think it's a Valencia orange, had so much fruit on it, but with all the hail we've had and rain, it's just dropping all the fruit. So we'll have to just call this one a growth year for that. And the same with the mandarins. I thought we were going to get a bumper crop, and then all the hail came. It's pretty rare to get that much hail that time of year, but it's knocked off all the fruit. You can see all the white damage on the leaves, the little dots from the hail. So go across here, the potted lemons. You got a lot on. And here's the Santa Rosa plum, which is my favourite plum, and that hung on to quite a few fruit this year, which is good. So over in this corner here, it was completely taken up with pepino last year, but we just couldn't keep up with the fruit. So I changed the design a little bit and pushed the pepino over a bit and left a little sheltered area in here. And this is the wajibu that Doug sent down from Queensland, and they can grow quite big. So that's the new home for that. It didn't seem to like full sun while it was young, so I've put shade cloth over it, and that can just grow up here as big as it wants, complete full sun, and provide wind protection for the Santa Rosa, because this cops it in wind a bit and drops a lot of fruit due to the wind. So that's the plan there. We've got another little persimmon here, Fuyu, and I'll just show you that larger persimmon over there behind it. Alright, so this is the main persimmon. It's our second oldest fruit tree behind the red shatut. It's about been in the ground about 5 years, so it's got quite a few on it, but not as many as the gyro in the front yard this year. I think the wind and the rain knocked it around a bit. And there's a view of the pepino from the other side, so it just fits in there nicely. Hopefully doesn't get too out of control. And this is the Mariposa plum. It didn't get a single fruit this year, but last year got hundreds, so can't expect it to produce like that every year. Got a few garden beds here. Here's the Kampong white sapote, and it's been battered around by hail, but it's finally had enough warmth to start waking up, and it amazingly hung on to some fruit. Got some there, and we've got some in here, and one fell off the tree the other day. It was immature but soft, so I tasted it and it was very nice, very custody. So hopefully we get a bumper crop off that this year. And here's a seedling pineapple guava for Joa. It's in flower, and that even though it's a seedling, it gives us good fruit. But eventually I'll try and graft, or get a mate to try and graft different varieties onto that. So if you remember last year, this area was just completely bare, and now the Barbaco, it's approaching 3 meters, and in that spot there, quite sheltered, it got through the winter very easily. And here's the colossal black sapote, which gets burnt at this stage from any sun, even mild sun. So I've built a cover over that. Bananas, massive trunks, no fruit yet, but pretty confident for this year. That's them. So here's 2 new additions that I'm really happy with. 2 named varieties of North American pawpaw. Asimina tribiola, I think their scientific name. And this is a Louis Glowinski, which I heard is a seedling off Pennsylvania Gold, which is what this is. This is a Pennsylvania Gold. So just so I remember, I've engraved PG in this side of the sleeper. So until it establishes a taproot mark from Melbourne Subtropic Fruits, told me just to shelter it for this year while it establishes a taproot, because they don't like direct sun when they're young, and they don't mind shade either. So yeah, just they've put on quite a bit of growth actually in the few weeks that they've been in. And we've got a dwarf Fuyu persimmon here, which I fluked in the nursery. I just found one that had been sitting at the back for years, and that'll fit nicely there. It won't get too out of control. We've got a yellow Grummy Charmer here, and that one seems to be able to handle the sun a little bit better. Haven't shaded that one, but if you remember, this whole area was just grass. The grass would die off in summer, and now it's turning into a nice spot to look out over it from the deck. So out here, the Golden Delicious Apple, it's got hundreds again, and the graft, the pink lady graft in the centre, no fruit this year, but it would have helped with pollination. Okay, so the front yard is starting to look like it's in summer, and there's a few trees I removed and a few new additions, but we'll start here with the blueberries, and they seem to alternate which one has a good year. So it's worked out alright, because every year there's at least one variety that has a good year. I think this year it's the Kisses variety, and last year it was the Burst. So this is the Kisses. I've got 3 next to each other: Kisses, Burst, and the Peach Sorbet. That's my favourite one. It's only got a few fruit this year, just put on new growth, but yeah, they were a pretty good addition to the garden. Filled those garden beds with acidic soil, potting mix. So quite happy with those. So here's the wonderful pomegranate, and it's in a raised bed. It's got quite a few flowers on it, but this year I've taken out 2 of the seedling pomegranates, which probably helped pollinate it last year. So we'll see what it does to the fruit set on it this year. This is the star of the front garden. This is Gyro Persimmon, and it's loaded with fruitlets, as you can see. That fits nice and snugly in there between the pomegranate and the strawberry guava. Strawberry guava is absolutely covered in flowers, flower buds. So I think that's gonna have so much fruit, better learn how to make strawberry guava jam. So this is the Divinity apricot. It's growing into a nice form there, and this is the first year we got a reasonable amount of fruit. So they're just sort of hidden behind the leaves, but not a heap, but just a bit encouraging that we might get a good crop next year. It's been moved a few times, and I'm trying to graft on a scion of Moor Park under here. It's still green, it's been on there, hasn't done much, but it's still green inside. So here's a new addition. This is a Japanese seedless mandarin. Looks like it needs a bit of water this morning. Got one fruit there, it looks like to stay on its first year, so happy with that. This little miniature nectarine. It's got more fruit than you'd think it would by looking at it from the top. This is a mini Oma Tangelo. So that should help pollinate the mandarin there, and this is where I had two seedling pomegranates last year, but I didn't. They were a bit too sour for me. I think it was an Elsh, sorry, and a seedling. So here's the dwarf self-pollinating almond. It's got a lot on. Oh, not a lot, but it's got maybe 40 or 50 almonds this year. Here we have a Ben-Hur pomegranate, yet to flower. A few people have trouble getting this one to flower, but I'm just going to let this one grow as big as it wants there, and then prune it to shape later. So it's in a great position, so I'm confident one day we'll get fruit on it. This is the best performing orange of the year. This is dwarf blood orange. I'm not sure the variety, it just came as it's a grafted blood orange, but had no fruit last year. So same thing, I'm just letting it grow out and then I'll prune it to shape later. So here's the main dragon fruit, which has got 4 stems, and 3 of them are Vietnamese white, and one of them's an Aussie gold, which is grafted on here. Goes up there and then overhangs in this quarter here. So that handled this very cold winter quite well. So Aussie gold looks like it does alright in Melbourne. That's that corner there, and the rest is Vietnamese white. We got a 1.1 kilo fruit off this last year, so it's grown over the structure nicely there. And here I've got 6 other varieties. I want to go through them until we get fruit on them, otherwise there's no point. Whichever ones struggle too much, I'll replace them with a Vietnamese white, I think. But they're up against a north facing wall, and they're under the eaves, so they get a pretty good run during winter. Decided to give up on growing mangoes in the south side of the garden, just too cold over winter, and even using frost protection and everything, they just die off. The coldest I got to in the backyard this year was -4, and I've moved these. I'm going to keep them in pots in the front yard. So we've got a keep and a glen, and over this side we've got a Bowen seedling, or I think Kensington Pride, and just a finger lime there. That's just a quick overview of the front yard. So here's my chocolate variety Black Sabote. and this one is in full shade, no skylight, just the reflective light, and still putting out new growth, much healthier than the other one. So while they're young, my experience, protect them as much as you can. So that'll go next to the colossal when it's big enough in ground. So I won't show you everything today, it's I've got to get the watering, but I just wanted to show you something down here lastly, which is ricotta chili, which I heard is a perennial chili, and we're getting flower buds on that. So it's not full sun, it's sheltered against the fence there, and it gets a gap about that much, but the warmth from the brick wall I think helps overnight. So that's the ricotta chili. That's the another one that I'm really looking forward to trying out. Alright, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one with individual updates of plants. Cheers.